Anyway, at this time, it's my pleasure and my honor. Where is Nathalie? She didn't leave. Okay. Anyway, to introduce Nathalie Kelly, our brunch speaker. I've known Nathalie nearly 20 years, and she's really one of those incredible people that she's not only blessed with many talents, but she's one of those people that works very hard to develop the talents that she has. She's a musician, a dancer, and a professional artist, and she excels at all of those things. Most recently, she has been received and been recognized at the Midland Art Show, and that's a very competitive, prestigious, and she won first, and that's big in the art world. I mean, the artists among you, and I know that y'all are out there, that's big. Anyway, that's her. She's received many accolades, and that's just the most recent. Anyway, whatever she does, she studies and practices it, and becomes a master. She's a really complex, fascinating person, and as long as I've known her, I mean, there's always some new facet to her personality, and I'm anxious to see her, see what I discover today. Anyway, she's just a fabulous person, and I'm introducing Nathalie Kelly, professional artist today.
Okay, well, let me just say, whenever Mary asked me to come and speak, let me see if I can keep this cutting out on me. She said it's a kaleidoscope of color, and I guess that I was the most colorful person that she could think of. And I have a very colorful past, but that's for another story. So we're not going to talk about that. So what is an artist? An artist can be in any kind of area. You know, CPAs can actually be an artist with numbers, but that's a person that is skilled at a particular task or occupation. So when she said, I want you to speak, and she had me advertised as an artist, I thought, well, I probably need to do some art. And so, and I know some people say, well, they could do that with one hand tied behind their back. So we're going to see if I can do this with one hand with a microphone and the other hand with some paint stuff. But okay, so the most common question that I get is, when did you start painting? And I was 5 years old. And maybe I wasn't exactly painting when I was 5 years old, but my earliest remembrances of art was when I was 5. And my parents are both, my dad is gone on now, but my parents were both artists. My dad had a degree from Texas, from TCU, and see if I can keep from spilling this on the floor. Anyway, so there were always palettes, brushes, canvases, and easels in our home. And when I was 5, I had created a whole handful of art, and I took it around the neighborhood, and to my delight, I sold every piece. I think that was probably to my mom's horror, because she thought maybe that the neighbors thought we had like huge need or something for this little pigtail girl to go around selling her art. But that's what I did. You know, my parents were both artists. My grandparents on both sides were artists. My parents were also junkers. And so as they kind of moved from art, they moved into antique. Now my mom said one day, she called me and she said, I've reworked this Tiffany lamp, and I'm not sure how I'm going to get it down to the shop. And I said, Mom, put it in the same box you brought it home from the garage selling. She said, get smart with me. So anyway, it's just kind of in my DNA, and I almost just can't help it, all right? And see, I've picked up some green and some purple there, and so I've made mud. And we do that sometimes. We just get mixed up in too many things, and we make mud. But maybe that'll work out after a while. Okay, so I'm going to just do a little mixed media piece. And let me get there's a piece of paper towel, right? I could probably put this on here, and you'd never know the difference. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. All right. So, I'm going to look at my notes for a second so I don't forget something. I've always liked making and selling stuff, obviously, from a young age. And I still like making and selling stuff. when I was 23, I had an evening gown design shop in the Metroplex. And I had gowns in the Miss America pageant and Miss Texas pageant. And then I had my own little garment factory that I did. And then we moved to East Texas, and I started making quilts, and I advertised in Quilters magazines, and I sold, did the machine quilting, the long arm quilting, before it was computerized. Just did it by hand. I'm very analog and old school. And I also did, let me move this off of here for a second. And let's see what color I want to put on there. Let me let that dry for just a second. So whenever I did the gowns for Miss Texas, when I was in East Texas, I did her gown for the Miss Texas pageant. And so Tumbleweed Smith came and did an interview. I don't know how many of y'all know who Tumbleweed Smith is. He's kind of old school too. But anyway, I've had the privilege of being on his show 2 different times. Anyway, so I also worked for a taxidermist. You know, you'd think I would eventually do something and settle on it. And when I worked for the taxidermist, I thought, okay. So I took out ads in Field and Stream magazine and sold instructions on how to tan hides. Yeah, I know. It's a real problem. It's just a real problem. Because I just like being involved in stuff and making stuff and selling stuff and advertising. So when we moved from East Texas to West Texas. And we moved to Rotan, which was where my husband was born and raised. And I opened a little shop there called Nathalie's You Name It. And we were doing I was doing dolls. I gotta put my hand behind there. Doll restoration and making teddy bears and doing a little bit of monogramming. And that was pretty fun. Then my husband got laid off from offshore. Now, how does inspiration come? Inspiration can come in so many different ways. Sometimes it can come from desperation. And it's like, okay, where do you get your inspiration? Well, sometimes it's like you just be the inspiration. But anyway, my husband had gotten laid off from offshore, and we had no money, and no food, and they were fixing to turn our water off. Now, and whenever there's no food in Nathalie Kelly's house, that means there's no food. There's no food. I mean, not even something to make some tortillas out of. And so I thought, what in the world am I going to do? And I was praying. So, Lord, I've got to have something that I can make and sell today, so I can buy groceries and I can keep our water from being turned off. This is an old ribbon spool. And so I was sitting at the sewing machine, probably monogramming on something, and the thought came to me, there's an old quilt over there that you took out of this house that you tore down. And I'm like, but that's kind of like you would put in your dog house. And he said, why don't you make a collar out of that? And I'm thinking, what? What? And so I went and I dug in my patterns, and I found something from the 70s that had a dress pattern that had a yoke on it. Now, I don't know if y'all remember these or not. Okay. Now, I had never seen one of these at a craft show, ever. And so I put together the pattern, pinned some Clooney lace onto it, and put some ribbon on it. And a lady came in, and sweet friend, she said, what are you working on today? And I said, well, let me show you. And she happened to have on a denim dress. And she said, oh, can I take this to the beauty shop? And I said, well, sure. I mean, if you want to, go ahead. So she took that to the beauty shop. She called me, she said, how much? And I said, oh, $15. Oh, you're a sweetheart. Oh my gosh. That would be so much better. Yeah. test. Is that better? Yes. All right. Awesome. Anyway, so she took the collar to the beauty shop. She sold 3 of them. I had money for supper, and I had money to keep my water. Obviously, my water bill wasn't very high. Anyway, so I had money for my water bill, and I was so excited about that. And so we went to a craft show. In fact, that one still has the tag on it. That was one that my husband didn't sell because he was selling them as fast as I could make them. But anyway, I carried 10 or 15 of them, sold them straight away. I mean, they were gone. And I knew that the next craft show, everybody would have them in their booths for sale. I mean, I knew that. And the next day, I brought my sewing machine in the back of the car, and I sat in the back of the van, and I cut old quilts, and cut collars on the way. We sold 45 during that craft show. I ended up taking them to market. I also put an ad in Country Living magazine and sold them through Country Living magazine. And because I needed a little something else to go in the catalog that we put together, I started doing ceramics. Now, I'd already been doing some of the dolls, you know, with the other shop. And so, and one thing leads to another. And so I started making some jewelry. And then a friend of mine just, you know how just one sentence, one thing can be said, and all of a sudden, it just changes everything. And she said, "You ever thought about making buttons?" And I thought, no, not actually. I haven't really thought about that. But, y'all remember these? They kind of went along with the quilt collars and the denim jumpers. I swore I would never wear a denim jumper ever again because they make me look like that. So it's like, forget the denim jumpers anymore. So I don't do that. But anyway, so I'm going to let that dry for a little bit and talk because I need to stick some stuff on there, but I need it for that to dry. So anyway, I'm going to back up just 1 second because sometimes we just do something that's out of the norm. And I'm a risk taker. And so in the 70s, the late 70s, I started doing the craft fairs, and my husband and I were living in East Texas, and I opened a Christian bookstore with $70 and a promise from God. We had the bookstore open for 2.5 years. And so, you know, sometimes we wait for everything to be in place, everything to be just right, and sometimes you just need to start. You just need to take a risk, take a step, and just do it, We ended up with the Button Factory, Nathalie's on the Square in Snyder. We had 60 employees. We sold buttons all over the United States. When we first started doing the buttons, I would save my money. We were so stinking broke when we moved to Snyder. I would save my money to buy a little 25-pound block of clay. By the time that we closed, we had purchased and used over 16 tons of clay. We sold a lot of buttons. Cracker Barrel Stores was one of our biggest clients. We did them a couple of times, $100,000 worth. And when you're doing little bitty things like that, $100,000 worth of little bitty stuff, that's a lot of stuff, and they weren't very expensive either. But that business went belly up. Now, there's this little book. I didn't illustrate this. I wish I had. I did illustrate Mary's, which we're still waiting for her to get that published. Yay, one of these days. Anyway, this is called That's Good, That's Bad. And it's a sweet little story. And it really is our life. And it's about this little boy whose parents take him to the zoo. And he gets into some situations, and I'm not going to read you the book, but they give him a big red balloon, and it takes him up into the sky. And you say, oh, that's good. No, that's bad, because the balloon hits on a thorn bush and it pops. Oh, that's bad. No, that's good, because then he ends up in a muddy river splat. And so all through the book it's, oh, that's bad. Oh, no, that's good. Or, oh, that's good. No, that's bad. So our business, we got into some debt with the IRS, and let me tell you, if you get in trouble with the IRS, they don't go away. They don't ever go away. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger. But we ended up being shut down. We had to file bankruptcy, and we ended up being shut down for $1,100 of property taxes. Not this IRS thing, but this little thing that was neglected. And you're thinking, oh, that's bad. No, that's good. That's good. So when I ended up going to work at the prison, if you'd have ever told me that I would be working shut up in a room with 3 killers, I would have told you you're out of your mind. But I ended up working there 10 years. I have my health insurance for the rest of my life. I have retirement. My husband has retirement, had retirement. Now I have his retirement. He has the great retirement now. So lost him about, May the 1st. And anyway, so he's gone. So I brought this. Begin. And I just tore this piece of paper up because I like ragged edges. And aren't we great because we just don't like perfection too much anymore, huh?
Amen.
Well, sometimes I do. And I'm going to show you some of that. But anyway, so let me just kind of rough up the edges of this a little bit. Because that's the main thing. Just begin. So anyway, while I was at the prison, I started doing watercolors. And that's whenever Mary and I met, was about in that same time that I had started doing it. And I was doing itsy bitty tiny little watercolors. And I was selling them on eBay. And the reason I like the watercolors is because it was very portable. There's my stuff. It was very portable, so I could take it to the prison with me, not inside. That would have been contraband. And but I would go out to the van, and I would paint during lunch or on my break. I hope that sticks on that wet paint. And so this, I was in a challenge group on eBay, and I painted this one in my van. And that was one of my first pieces, and it's not really a super, super good piece. Then in 2006, I started seriously painting, and I was so proud of this painting. And my friend that actually called me last night to tell me that I had won first place in Midland, she came to the house and I said, let me show you what I've done. And she said, well, that's just a still life. And I thought, okay. I wonder what she means by that. And I didn't have my feelings hurt. I just thought, I wonder what she meant. And so about a year ago, I found this again. It had been in storage. And so I pulled it out, and I wish I had this one in its full size but it's sold, so yay, I'm glad I don't have it in its full size, but it's very large. This is also a still life. And they both have reflections. They both have a wrinkled tablecloth. They both have fruit. But from this year to a year and a half ago, practice and practice and practice. And so what I've done is, and I'm all over the place, just like Mary said, I do this messy stuff, and I do this realism. I can't control. There's so many things in my life that I can't control. But I try this little uncontrollable medium to make it mind me and make it go where I want it to go. So just a still life. And so you just take those words, those phrases. I painted this one, and this is a print. My friend owns the original of this. This is called Blowing Off Steam. And I painted this one while Joe was in the hospital when he had his surgery on his colon. And so I had taken my stuff, because it's portable, and painted this. This one won 4 first places, a second place, and an exceptional painting, and an honorable mention. And so, and that's not to just brag like about me. It really is to brag about the Lord, and whenever you press into Him and what He's put your hand to do. There's a guy, his name, do y'all know who Eric Liddell is? Okay, you do, you just don't know you do. He is a Jewish Olympic runner, and the movie Chariots of Fire is his life story. But there was one line
that he said that totally, completely changed me. And he said, God made me fast, and when I run fast, I can feel his pleasure. And I asked the Lord, I said, what is it that you have given me to do, that you have created me to do, that when I do it, I can feel your pleasure? And being creative is that thing. So whether it's with repurposing junk, whether it's with photorealism art, whether it's teaching, I teach at Western Texas College on the Square. And I have a great group of ladies that I work with, and adults that I teach them to release and to find their voice, their creative voice. So this one is being. And being and begin have the same letters. I have a blog, like I don't have anything else to do, that's called My Hall Closet. It's a new blog. I've been blogging for quite a while, and my other one is Worshiping God with All My Art. But this new blog is called My Hall Closet, and it's about trash and treasures and clutter and creativity. Oh, that's me. And so my acronym on my blog is ICE, I-C-E. And my dream and my hope is that I can inspire people to be all that you can be, to release your creative self, that I can challenge you to move beyond what you think you're capable of doing, to think outside of the box. And the E is for encourage, to encourage you in everything that you do and everything that you attempt and everything that you try. And I would write on that with a marker, but I don't think that my paint is dry enough for me to do that. So I'm just going, I brought this just in case. Let me look at my notes real quick to see if there's anything that I'm missing to tell you. Because really what I want to do is just to make sure that you can find your inspiration. Listen and look around you. I mean, you know, I've got all of my junk stuff that I absolutely love. Some of it came as a blessing from my mom and dad from their junk antique shop. And, but it's all models. I mean, really, seriously, who needs that many salt and pepper shakers? This is the print of the painting that one How many aluminum teapots do you need? How many copper teapots do you need? Really, mason jars. And they're all just sitting around my house waiting for me to put them in a photograph so they can be my models for my next masterpiece. And there's a lot, trust me, there are a lot of paintings that are not masterpieces that I've created. And so that I just keep on. I don't let it stop me. And so as you go forward and you go from this place today, and you go out here and you enjoy the junk, I want you to be inspired. Look around you. Look at it with a different eye. And I wonder if that's dry. It's dry enough. I want to challenge you to just begin, it wasn't dry enough, to just begin being you. The you that He has created you to be, doing what He has purposed you to do. And thank you so much for letting me talk to you today.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I don't have a microphone, so I'm just going to talk loud. Can y'all hear me? Yes. Okay. We just want to thank Natalie.